Hi, I'm Ryan from Amber Elm. So it was a pretty busy week, but not so much having to do anything with work. Let me explain. And before I do, if you want to skip the adventure that was my life this past week, you can skip ahead. I've timestamped the video and made chapters so you can kind of skip to the part that interests you. But if you want to stick around for story time with Ryan, I will explain all the events this week that led to me landing on the title of this video. My family and I took a trip to New Orleans this week for my kids' spring break. And it's probably one of my favorite cities to visit. My dad's side of the family were all from there, so I have some ties to the culture in the city and the food. Holy shit. I bring that up to just sort of start the story of how my week was. But also, remember a few weeks ago I made a video on what happens when I put off playing music for too long? Yeah, put me in a city filled with my favorite music all week without any access to an instrument, and it's like having musical blue balls. And I don't even play that style of music, but just being surrounded by all those musicians who were playing with such creativity and passion, it was pretty hard. So when I got home from the trip, I tried to kind of just get back into my weekly routine. And of course, I couldn't get anything done. I just ended up writing and playing a bunch of music. I was really trying to channel that creativity that I was surrounded by all week and use it to make something that was unique and some new sound. So I started messing around with my pedal boards and synthesizers, and it just wasn't really scratching that creative itch. So I opened up the DAW and added a bunch of effects plugins to different MIDI instruments and piano, and there was something about using the same things that I use over and over, kind of knowing what to expect out of them, made it hard, and it still wasn't getting me where I wanted to be. And then I started to think about modular, but dismissed it pretty quickly because it's pretty intimidating to me. If you've seen channels like Andrew Wong or Christian Henson, they always have these huge modular walls behind them and they look like f***ing spaceships. To add to that, a lot of my preconceived notions of what modular is usually involves just mangling a bunch of pretty raw sounds, and it can get unmusical pretty quickly. And I guess to be fair, unmusical isn't the right word. It gets a little too experimental for my taste. And trying to rein in all that sound was probably going to take me too long to figure out, since I don't know anything about modular. And to top it off, it seems like even if I wanted to get into it, the learning curve would be so steep that there's no way I'd be able to find something creative and usable in the time that I wanted to do it in. I guess I should mention that a while ago, I downloaded this thing called VCV Rack. And it's basically just a modular synth that has thousands of modules that you can download, all for free. Some of them are hardware clones of real modules. Some of them are made just for VCV Rack, and all of them are awesome and pretty cool. You should definitely check it out. But I've had this thing sitting on my computer forever. The first time I opened it up, I looked at it and I added some modules. I couldn't make any sound, and I kind of just threw my hands up and closed it up, never deleted it, kept it there, kind of forgot about it. So it's been sitting on my computer unused for a while now, and I figured I'd never use it. But I stumbled upon, well, I guess I didn't stumble upon it. I searched for it. I found this video from this woman, Sarah Belle Reid, who was using VCV Rack and her trumpet, and she was taking the audio signal from her microphone and the trumpet and affecting that sound through VCV Rack. And I hadn't really thought of that before. I don't know why, but using audio with modular got me sort of excited, and it reframed how I thought about modular. Instead of it being this giant spaceship of things that you had to wrangle in, it seemed more like a pretty complicated pedal board. And a pretty complicated pedal board was something that I think I could get my head around. So with a renewed sense of curiosity and interest, I sort of dove back in head first. So logically, the first place I went was YouTube, just to look at some videos that would give me a basic understanding of some of the terminology and the basics of patching and routing. Because like I said, I'm a beginner at it, and I was pretty convinced that I wouldn't be able to make any sound. And then I looked at some videos on VCV Rack specifically, and I found a couple of videos that were really, really helpful. The first one was from Omni Cohen, and he goes into making this generative ambient patch, which I ended up just sort of copying patch for patch, module for module, to see what I could make, just to see if I could make it make noise and make it sound like that. And then Venus Theory. The video from Venus Theory really just goes into creating a basic patch. And that's exactly what I needed, just to make the thing make noise. So I was able to copy that. Then he also does a bunch of other stuff, like making the patch play itself and having the patch control your synthesizer. It was a great video, and I learned a lot from it. And with the 3 videos I watched, in a pretty short amount of time, I was able to make my own patches and get creative with it and have a little bit of an understanding of how all the modules work together and how you could make them affect each other. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like the sort of fun where I'm trying to figure out how much blood and plasma I need to sell in order to afford a giant modular spaceship synth myself. And we're talking like 3 YouTube videos here. And just so we're clear, when it comes to like wiring and patching and routing, I'm sort of an idiot. My buddy helped me wire up my studio here, and every time I want to try to do something different or wire things around, I'm usually on the phone with him, having him explain to me how to do it, and it's a whole thing. So I feel like it's one of those, if I can do it, you can do it situations. So I'm going to show you what I did, and honestly, I'm not going to go too deep into it. If you want to know more, I would pause this and go watch the Venus Theory video, the Omni Cohen video, or the Sarah Belle Reid video. They can explain it way better, and the Venus Theory video in particular does a really good job explaining it to beginners like me. I'm not going to pretend that I know exactly what's going on with this patch and all these patches, because I don't. And if I did, I'd be a liar, and lying is bad. Okay, so let's head over to VCV Rack. So what I have here is I have a LFO triggering the note sequencer. The note sequencer is getting information from the DeepMind synth for the sound. And here is an audio module. Now what I'm doing is that's making all sorts of noise, and I'm having it come out right here. I'm having it come out of the interface into a reverb, out of the reverb into this other module. It's a texture synthesizer, but it's based on the clouds module. Out of the clouds module into another reverb, and out of the reverb into inputs to my audio interface. And that's how we're getting the sound here. That's it. That's pretty simple. Over here I made a different one just for the bass, and then I took it all apart. I don't know why. So let's try to put it back together. So basically, instead of having, here, let's disconnect this for a second. So this one, instead of having my synthesizer trigger all the sounds, I am having a sequencer, but I'm going to have this oscillator, basal, make the sounds. And I already wrote out it's just a bass line, and I can control the notes here, and the octave, and the scale that's playing, but it's just a note, so it doesn't really need the scale information. I have it clocked to this LFO2, so just when I play them together, they're running on the same clock. So for this, I have the oscillator connected to the sequencer, and out of the oscillator going into a VCA, which is a voltage control amplifier. Now it's coming out of the VCA into a reverb. Sorry, and the VCA, and I have a, oh geez. This is harder to explain than I thought it would be. So in this patch is just another basic sort of synth patch, but I have that with the sequencer. I have should still be recording. Okay, so for this one, it's a basic. This down here is a kind of a synth patch. I have an oscillator, a VCA, an envelope, LFO, and I'm added a reverb and a sequence. So for this, I just have my voltage control to the oscillator, the gate. So the notes are kind of being played over here, and the gate is coming out into the envelope, out of the envelope into the VCA. And then I also have out of the VCA going into reverb. So I'm going to come out of the reverb, and I am going to go into this mixer that I have up here. Probably not going to hear anything because the mixer is not connected, but you can see that I have signal in. Okay, so I need to come out of the mixer, and I'm just going to send out of the mixer into the audio interface. Let's go to 1 and 2. Oh, there we go. Oh, these patches are tricky. So there you have that, and that is pretty much all I needed to do. All right. If I connect my first one over here, we should have them both going at the same time. And there you have it. So I made this cool little patch. It changes. Now I can come over here and hit the randomize button, and it'll change this little sequence up. Let's see. But it's always going to be in the same key. I can add the amount of notes in here by just turning this knob. So if I go crazy like this and hit random again, it's going to fill up this grid. Whoop. Which I don't really like, but you can do it. Let's go nuts if I do it all the way. Oh. So let's bring it back down. I had it pretty low before. Not that low. And then we can change the speed of this. Like I said, I think we can change the speed of this. Make it a little slower. Okay. If I want to change the notes, I could obviously come over here and change the root note on both of them. But I don't really want to. And down here, I started to just make another synthesizer that I could play with my keyboard. So let me mute this and disconnect this guy for now. Oh, sometimes it does that. And I don't know why. So I'm still learning some of this stuff. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create our own little MIDI thing. I'm not going to go too deep. This is kind of what Venus Theory set up on his channel. I'm just going to make a quick version of it. Also to see if I can again. That'd be kind of fun. So take your voltage octave out into voltage octave in. I'm going to take the gate out of my MIDI. And I'm going to throw it into the gate of the envelope. I'm going to use a triangle wave because I like triangle waves. And I am going to go in to the VCA, out of the envelope, into the VCA, and out of the VCA. So I'm getting signal into my... There we go. Now I could add a... Now I can mess with the release and the attack. Now this is a monophonic synth. It's pretty cool. If you want to make this polyphonic, just come over to your MIDI CV and right click, and you can change the polyphony channels right now. Whoop, there it is. It's monophonic right now. Let's give us 6 voices. So now I can... Now that's just a basic setup. You could start adding reverbs, you could start adding whatever you want, which is the beauty of this. If you go into the library and browse the VCV library, let me see if I can bring this screen down. There's a VCV library. You are just 2,835 modules. And you can search by brand, you can search by type. So let's just go to effects. There's lots echoes, and I don't even know what half of these do. Bit crushers, tube effects. I'm just going to say words if I just see them. Yeah, fuzz, glitchers. I know there's reverbs. I know there's lots of, and they look fun and something. This is, I actually have this one. I don't know how to use it yet. I'm working on it. But anyways, there's just a ton of things Every one of these also has like its own little user manual. It's amazing. So there's the VCV library. It's pretty awesome. So there's the VCV library. It's pretty awesome. Sorry if it's loud. My kids just got home from school, and my dogs like to bark, and they usually will come up here and knock on the door. So we'll see if that happens. Yeah, so there's a VCV Rack. All right, so let's, if we hook this all back up, I can play along with it. And with this limited kind of synth I made, let's do something where we can make it kind of plucky. So let's take the attack down, sustain down. So anyways, this is just part of what VCV Rack can do. I'm going to close this. Well, let's save it. I'm going to close this and open this other ambient patch that I did. And this one's a little bit bigger. Let me see if I can zoom out of this guy. I'm zoomed in pretty big. Okay, here we go. So here is the ambient patch that I made through Omni Cohen's channel, and it's really the same thing, actually just minus a couple things because I stopped doing, when I kind of figured it out, it was pretty late and I was happy with my progress. And I also realized that I was really just copying him and wasn't learning a whole lot. Like a lot of this stuff I don't know why it's doing what it's doing. So that's why I stopped and opted to find other videos. But it sounds like this. That's my dog barking. It doesn't sound like that. It sounds like this. You can push this little burst button to give a fun little effect. Kind of bloops and bleeps for a little while. So yeah, this is modular. It looks super duper confusing because it sort of is, but I'm learning sort of the basics of it right now, and I gotta say it's a little less intimidating than I thought it would be, so I hope it is for you too. Alright. I think what really gets me excited about modular is all the possibilities, and I know I'm late to this party. But there's just so many things you can do with it and different ways you can wire it with the same modules to make completely different sounds. And I guess I really didn't realize it before, but there are a bunch of different modules that are basically just guitar pedals, like even from the same companies. Strymon has the Night Sky, they also have the Starlab pedal. It also has the Magneto module, which has like delay and looper functions. There are a bunch of similarities between the two, and I just never realized. On top of that, it's just like building your own synthesizer. So when I'm looking at this giant wall of modules, I'm sort of seeing just a synthesizer from the inside out. And when you think about it like that, it becomes a little less intimidating. Now, the big downside of modular, if you don't know, is it's sort of really, really expensive. I've already spent many hypothetical dollars building my very hypothetical system. It adds up pretty quickly. Even though there are some companies like Behringer and Dreadbox, and they make modules pretty affordably. I mean, I was seeing ones for like $75 or $100, even little IntelliGel ones for like $25 for like utility functions. Those little bits of money add up quickly though. If you want something with like 6 modules, right there, if you're buying as cheap as you can find, you're spending $500-600, and then you also have to get the case and the power supply. So it is a very expensive venture, but it's one of those things that you can kind of build up over time and always be changing out. That's what I kind of plan on doing. It's always fun to find new ways to spend money. Well, that's it for this week. I recorded a bunch of videos on my trip to New Orleans of different musicians playing all around the city, and I really want to make an instrument out of it. I was trying to figure out something that would tie all the music together and also represent sort of the city and the culture. And what I came up with was pretty exciting to me, and I'm really excited to share it with you when I'm a little bit farther down the line with it. So stay tuned to that. Other than that, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next week.